Okay. Mic check 1 2 1 2. It's the Y2K Collector, and hopefully you've been having a good weekend. I know it's been blazing hip hop and R&B in certain parts of the country, and wherever you're watching from, hopefully you are cool, calm, and collected. It's been a great weekend rather for me. I actually got a little bit of time to get some extra rest, and that's always good. But unfortunately, it has not been a good week or weekend for the folks over at Game Informer magazine. Many of you might be familiar with Game Informer magazine. It's actually one of the oldest video game journalistic publications that have been around for quite some time. I actually remember being a kid and my older brother actually having a literal box of both Game Informer and Nintendo Power magazines. And you know, that was how we got our gaming news back in the day. There was no Spawn Wave, there was no IGN back in the day. No, you got all of your gaming information from a nifty little magazine that came out once per month, and Game Informer was a part of that. And so it's rough to hear that GameStop has decided to shut them down completely and lay off their entire staff. And that's a rough thing to have happen, especially, during this part of the year. It's usually around the third quarter that a lot of companies decide to trim some of their fat. They're usually looking at their budget and where they're projected to be towards the end of the year. And most departments are always trying to come under budget, right? They're always trying to come under budget because they have obligations to shareholders and stakeholders. And so this is where a lot of the trimming of the fat comes from. And unfortunately, in GameStop's eyes, the Game Informer publication was some of the fat that they needed to trim. And so all of those folks over at the Game Informer that have gotten laid off, best of luck to you. I'm sure there's a lot of talented folks over there who will have the ability to utilize a lot of the free platforms that are out, including YouTube, to build some type of media foundation, and hopefully they're able to take advantage in that way. It's always it's never good to hear that someone is losing their job. And I mean, this is just indicative of where we're at in terms of the overall economy. The stock market has taken a beating towards the end of last week, and that was on news of a potential recession on the way and unemployment being on the rise. And so if you have a job, now is the time to hang on to it. Don't get so wrapped up in any of your video games that you fail to clock in or you fail to complete your deliverables on time, because it's getting to that rough point. And before you know it, Christmas is around the corner, and there is nothing more depressing than being broke at Christmas. So try to hang on to what you've got and stay diligent there. And again, best of luck to those over at Game Informer magazine. Now, GameStop is not only cutting the Game Informer magazine publication, but they're also trying to come out with their own system, their own console, and it's really strange. It's called the Chromatic, and really what it's meant to be is it's really meant to be a nostalgia play, because they're trying to come up with a handheld that will rival the analog pocket, and that just seems very, very hard to do, in my opinion. There are so many things about the analog pocket that make it an amazing handheld system that I really don't know what GameStop is trying to do here. And I don't know if this is the best use of their resources when you start to think about it, because when you do the initial comparisons between the analog pocket and the Chromatic, in my opinion, the analog pocket is a clear, undeniable winner. And again, I'm not sure. This is just me speculating. I don't know if GameStop was specifically trying to compete with the analog pocket, but when you look at the specs, they don't come close. From a price point perspective, the Chromatic is set to come out at $199. It's supposed to be releasing at some point later on this year. I believe pre-orders are open for it if you go to GameStop's website, or maybe if you just type in Chromatic on the on Google or something like that. You'll probably be able to find some more information about it. But from what I understand, it only plays Game Boy Color games. It only plays Game Boy Color, and then the Chromatic team is supposed to be coming out with their own cartridges. Now, I don't know if these cartridges are going to be games that have already been released on other systems, or if they're planning on just getting with gaming studios, development studios to come up with their own original IPs or their own original titles. My assumption is they're probably just going to redo some of the older games on and just put them on this like proprietary cartridge system that they've got there. So we'll have to see what that looks like. But I mean, the Analog Pocket already does Game Boy and Game Boy Color. The Analog Pocket also has the adaptability to be able to add other systems. I believe they have like these adapters that'll allow you to play Game Gear games and TurboGrafx games and pretty much, Game Boy Advance games. The display on the Analog Pocket is unmatched, completely unmatched. Obviously, you can download games onto the Analog Pocket as well as play the physical cartridges. So I'm not really sure how in any way the Chromatic is going to be able to compete with the Analog Pocket. But my guess is that it's really just going to be a nostalgia play. It's going to be like those, those Atari, those replica Atari systems that you see like at Target. It'll probably be a novelty play, for a Christmas gift for someone that is a gamer. And it's just GameStop's take on a handheld system. So I guess we'll have to see how that all pans out. But I definitely do not see it really being able to compete with the Analog Pocket. But good try. And it's just interesting to see where GameStop is putting their focus and attention and where they're allocating their resources. It's a very tricky time when we start to think about retro and retro collecting and retro video games and just where people are putting their attention and their energy. For a while, I think GameStop selling retro games was kind of like a hidden secret, but more and more I think people are realizing how much effort GameStop has been putting into building their retro selection. I think they've heard the voice of the community and understand that there's a market there, and they're losing out on market share by not carrying some of these retro gaming options. And so more and more we're seeing GameStop play the retro game. But I think because more people know about it, more people are on the lookout for it. And so it's getting just as scarce there as it would at like a Goodwill or anywhere else where you might go to try to find some retro games. Now, GameStop isn't the cheapest outfit in town, that's for sure. They're charging typically market value for most of the retro games that they have there. But there are some ways that you can kind of get a leg up and possibly snag some pretty decent deals there. What I notice at GameStop when it comes to their retro offerings is that they're usually right on point with their Nintendo stuff. They usually have the Nintendo stuff priced pretty accurately. Where they tend to fall off is with, other systems like, Sega games, Xbox 360, stuff like that. When the market price changes for a lot of those games, GameStop is typically behind. They're really not quick to catch the changes. And a good example of that is going to be like what we've seen when it comes to the the change in the price of Deadpool. The cost of Deadpool across all systems has increased everywhere, and GameStop is still a little bit late to the game. I actually picked up a copy of Deadpool on the Xbox 360 earlier today, and I got it for roughly around $26. And the folks at GameStop, I'm sure if they knew that there was a price increase, they'd probably be charging more, because GameStop does not hesitate to increase their prices. So it'll be interesting to see As you can see here, I am getting my butt kicked in Sky Blazer because I'm trying to talk and play the game at the same time. I got to get better at that. The only way you get better is if you practice. But it'll be interesting for all those who are heavy into retro collecting to see what happens in the next few months. The market is constantly changing. It's constantly shifting. And so we'll see where things go from here. So, but that does it for me. Just some interesting information with regards to modern day retro gaming options and offerings from GameStop. Again, it's sad to hear that Game Informer has closed. Like I said, hopefully those folks over there are able to kind of shift and pivot and find another way to, to grind out and, find some new opportunities when it comes to, reporting on gaming news. But until the next video, hopefully you all enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a great Sunday, and I will catch you in the next video. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.